So I did my dark raw umber with my ultramarine blue. And I'm gonna come in these trees and I'm gonna paint in this background. A little bit darker up there. Okay. And this is my dark color. So my darkest color. So it's the raw umber and the ultramarine blue. Good. Mix your white in your ultramarine blue for the blue, which will be a lot of our reflection in our snow and stuff. Oh, sorry. Yes. I held it up. I forgot to stick it back. So we'll just give you some time there. How's everybody doing? This is going to look amazing when you're done. Yep. Don't judge it yet. We have a long ways. We have quite a ways to go. So this yep. Raw umber and the blue, the base of the trees, the blue and the white along the edge of the lake. And now I'm going to take the blue and the white with my liner brush, my little brush. And I'm going to go through my tree and I'm going to add snow. So I'm using my brush. Maybe if I could close. And just putting some little blobs, I have the blue on my brush and I'm just pressing it down sideways. So I'm getting the whole brush on there. So I'm not just using the tip of my brush, I'm using my whole brush. I'm just going to go through here and add some snow, shadowed snow, so it's blue. Onto my trees. Try to breathe and have your hand be relaxed. Don't hold it really super tight. Let your brush be relaxed. The bushes that I put on the left side over here, I can go back, clean my brush, and I can go back and just pick up some white and add some white, just like I was doing to the trees on the left. I can add some white on the top of my bushes on the left with just white. And it's okay if you do this kind of thick. You want it to kind of look like bunched up snow. See how I added a little white to the top of them? I want you to practice relaxing because we are going to be starting with our palette knife. I know how much you guys like working with the palette knife. You're not here in person, so you can't cuss me out for using a palette knife. So So I'm going to set that there, let those dry, and I'm going to work with my palette here. So I am going to be using a lot of white. So I'm going to use my palette knife to scoop out a good amount of white onto my palette. And next to my white, I have my ultramarine blue. How they doing? Somebody's texting. Is being recorded, except I forgot to start. I can send you the instructions. So if you've been painting for me before, I have a little laminated how to use a palette knife. My 5 S's for palette knife. You swipe to pick up the paint. You squish to mix the paint, which our paint is already mixed. Our blue and white is already mixed. You scrape to load the knife. You swipe to apply the paint, and then you smooth it to blend it. So if you're new to palette knives, is everybody ready to start? Our palette knives, thumbs up. Okay. So I've already mixed my paint. I've already scooped out my white. So we'll say the 2 first S's are done. So, oh, you're not ready. Okay. Oh, we're going to work on a lot of snow. You can go back and touch that snow up.
The dark blob under the trees on the right, what color paint is that?
It is the very darkest that you have. So it is your raw umber mixed with ultramarine blue. So it should be your dark blue. Because it's the darkest, it's the deepest shadow.
Can I ask you?
Under the tree here on the right.
Can I ask you? I have a question.
Okay. White and ultramarine blue with our palette knife. Okay. So I'm going to take my palette knife and I am going to, this is where I'm going to be putting it. So let me wipe my palette knife off so I can. Okay. My palette knife right now is dry. I have no paint on it. But I want you to see the way you're going to stroke it on. Okay. We're going to scoop up some blue. We're going to put the blue. Here's my palette knife. I'm right-handed. Here's my palette knife. I turn it over. I am going to scoop up paint on this edge. So if I was looking at the top of my knife, I'm going to be scooping up paint on the right side of my knife. Because when I come in here to lay it down, I am going to lay it down right up here on the horizon line. And I'm going to be making these kind of strokes with it. I'm going to bring some into the lake, back and forth to make a little bit of snow that's floating in the water. When I apply the paint, my knife is going to be tipped a little bit. So it's, see the underside of my knife? That's what's going to be bringing out the paint. When I get over here to the side, I'm going to put my knife flat on my canvas and almost use it like a brush to get that ultramarine blue all over this whole area. Okay. Kathy, what is your question? Unmute yourself. I can hear you.
Okay, can I ask you? So when you mix colors, you put a little bit water. So usually when you mix and paint, and do you add the water?
Only like if you're doing the trees and you want to be able to line it a little better. You have to be very careful with acrylic paint. If you add too much water to it, it will change the dynamics of the paint.
Okay.
So yes, you always, you always want to have your brush damp. So you swish it in your water, tap it on the side. The water in your, just the water in your brush will help the paint to be smoother when you paint with it. But you don't, it's not watercolor. You do not
Okay.
want to be adding water, you know, too much water to your paint. But
Thank you.
with that being said, we're doing
Yes,
like an hour and
thank
a
you.
half painting tonight, and our paints are going to get thick because they're going to start drying.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we might need to do that. So let's take our palette knife. Do you see I have it turned? Here's my palette knife. I'm scooping up some blue. I'm getting it on the edge of my knife. I'm going to come up here under my trees, and I'm going to start right along my lake edge there. I'm using the edge of my knife to give me a water's edge and to give me some of that snow floating in the ice look. Okay. Here's my blue. So I'm taking my palette knife and I'm putting that edge. Here's the bottom of my palette knife. Here's the top of my palette knife. Here's the bottom of my palette knife. See where my paint is? And that's where I'm going to bring in. Now, when I get over here to my side, I want to use this almost like a paintbrush. So I'm going to scoop up paint. I put my paint on my canvas. And now instead of having my knife tipped like this, I want my knife to be flat and I want it just to be smoothing out that paint. It doesn't have to be totally covered because we're going to come back with white. See how quickly I was able to cover that area? Lay my paint on. Lay my paint on. Then just using my palette knife, just like you were frosting a cake. Okay. We're gonna put some foliage right here in this corner. Don't worry about that too much because we'll be overlapping that. Okay, if I hold this up, can you see how I've just kind of frosted the snow? This is my lake edge here. So I've just kind of brought my palette knife out a little bit into the water where the snow comes out a little bit onto the water. Okay. Remember on my palette, I have white and I have my light blue. So now I'm going to wipe off my palette knife, my paper towel. Like that. Okay, so I'm going to come back. I've quickly put the blue down. Now I'm going to come back. Here's the top of my palette knife. Here's the bottom of my palette knife with white. So now I'm going to come back with a little white and add, the white will add the little bit of snowy highlight that's here on the edge of the water. It's in the back. Palette knife is not a brush, so it's not going to hold a lot of paint. You're going to have to keep putting it in and dipping it. And I'm going to do that with my white throughout my snow. I'm going to just go back here. Here's the top of my palette knife. Here's the bottom of my palette knife. And I'm going to go back here and I'm going to add some white snow. The ultramarine blue and white actually is acting as a shadow for your snow. If we'd ever have a winter around here, we really haven't had a winter, but if we have a winter and it snows, take some time to look at the snow and look at all the beautiful, there's purples and lavenders and blue. It's not just white. We think of snow of just being white, but there's so many colors in it. And that's what makes it look so awesome. Even looking at mine, even me looking on the computer at mine right now, see, I can imagine a snowdrift with the shadow below it. Yep. Don't you love the way your sky is looking as you're adding in more of this? The perspective is starting to come through. Hey, everybody's doing good? Remember I told you that there was going to be a little rose coloring in the snow on the front of the lake, on the front edge of the lake. We want to mix it in with our white and blue that we have got right here. When we mix red with blue, we get lavender, we get violet. Well, violet's more of a reddish purple, but we get purple, okay? And so we want to, I'm sure your rose is dry. Mine's completely dry here on my palette. So I took my medium brush, pulled out some white, added a touch of red to it to give myself a rose color. And while this paint is still wet here in the front, I'm going to put in some of the pink. I'm just doing it with my brush, back and forth. A little darker. Yeah. Mine's going to be a lot. Let me lay this down. Can you see the rose color laid in here? Mixed in with my blue and white, which will give it just a little bit of a lavender color there on the front of the snow. It's so quiet here. Oh, I wish we could paint in person. I could just see you talking and stuff. I know, I know. Yeah, yeah. How's everybody doing? Good? Have you added your rose color to the snow in the front? Yeah, it's kind of it's actually the foreground of your painting, the front of your painting, front of the lake.
Oops.
We're kind of jumping around in our painting just to give things time to dry. So once you have added, once you've added this little bit of rose color here into the front of your snow here, we're gonna let that dry. And we're gonna paint our cabin. So I wet my liner brush and pulled off a little bit of the burnt umber color. And I'm going to add some of my dark yellow to it. And that's not as light as I want it. There. I added a little touch of white to it, make it just a little bit lighter brown. And using my liner brush, I'm just going to paint my little cabin. So back here in the darkness, under the trees, I'm just going to paint shape of a little house, so a triangle with a little square underneath it.
What color are you using again?
I have burnt umber, medium yellow, and a touch of white. See how you can barely see my little cabin?
Can't see mine at all.
Just a little triangle shape with a little square underneath it. And then we'll add a side to it. So you decide if you want the right side of the house to show a little bit or the left side. I think with what I've got going here, it would probably be better to have a little bit of the right show. So I do just a little bit of like a roof and then a little wall, a little side wall. It's very hard to see this right now. Don't worry about that because it's quite hidden, but the snow on the roof and the lights in the window will give us the illusion of the little cabin. Okay, so I have just this little primitive shape here in the background. And I'm going to take and use my lightest yellow, which for me is my medium yellow. So I'll bring out a little bit of medium yellow and a little bit of white. This is going to be my light in the cabin. And again, I'm just using my liner brush. So I have it on my liner brush. So I'm going to go back here, blow on your canvas a little bit. And I'm going to give myself a window here in the front.
Nope.
And two little windows on the side. Whoops. So I have a little window in the front. Remember, well, mine, I've got the right side showing, so I'm gonna do 2 little windows here on the side. And then I cleaned my brush off. So now I'm going back to my palette. And I'm just getting white. I'm dipping my brush in my white. And I'm gonna come along here and I'm gonna just pounce my little liner brush for a little bit of snow. The roof is covered with snow. So I have white on my brush. And I'm gonna come in here and make it. Yes, for the windows, it's white with a little bit of the lightest yellow you have, just to give it a little highlight in the window. And because the snow's piled up on the roof, I am kind of pouncing my brush on it to make it look like the snow is kind of you know, built up on the roof there. So we didn't actually draw this to perspective, you know. I mean, there's and stuff, but you can still tell. I mean, it gives you the illusion of a little cabin,
Not mine.
in the woods. If you want your snow to show up better, you can add a dark shadow by just using straight raw umber under the snow on the eaves. So I use just straight raw umber, and I can just put a little shadow underneath here on the eaves. It just makes the snow stand out a little more.
Can't find mine.
And there's going to be a little path from the cabin. So using my burnt umber, I'm going to make a little path. I'm going to go over it with snow, but I'm just going to put a little darkness right here. That's like a little path leading out of the cabin. How's everybody doing with their little cabins?
Not good.
You wish you were in there painting right now. So quiet outside. So we have a little cabin hidden back in the trees. Lights are on. Someone's home. We'll let our cabin dry. Oh, we'll let it dry. If the snow on your roof, you can always paint over it. If the snow on your roof got mixed with your brown a little bit, set it aside right now. Just let it dry. Do you remember that amazing color we were able to make with burnt umber and a touch of orange? We are going to pull some of that out now. So I've got my burnt umber. I'm going to pull some over here, some fresh paint. And I'm going to add a touch of orange to it. There's orange on my brush. And that's too dark. I want it to be lighter, so I'm going to add a little more orange. Okay, so I have my burnt umber with a little bit of orange. You see how reddish that is? This is going to be my grass showing through the snow on the edge of the lake. Huh? Yeah, it looks like a sienna brown. So because I'm going to be making my grass down here along the front edge of my lake, similar to making my tree trunks back here, I want my paint to be like the consistency of ink
Okay.
on my liner brush, on my fine little brush. And I'm going to come along the front edge of the lake. Just be careful because your snow right here might not be totally dry. So don't rub your hand in it.
Yeah, it's not.
But I always need to stabilize my hand when I'm painting this. So I'm going to find a place that isn't wet to hold my finger down on my canvas. And then from there, I'm just going to start adding some little weeds along the edge of my lake. They kind of go here and there. And I'm just rolling my little paintbrush, my liner brush in the paint as I pull it out so that I have a little edge. And using that same idea of the grass, I'm going to come along and I'm going to put in some little bunches of grass here and there poking out of the snow. So maybe I have a little tuft of grass here kind of showing through the snow. Maybe some over here on the side. I'm going to now add some foliage in here. So I'll give myself a little bit of grass sticking up here. We are going to paint a little pole fence there, but I can get some. Okay, we're just repeating same strokes. We're just repeating those little kind of broken grass. When you make the grass, you can hold your brush up off your paper. So you're just using the tip of your brush. Don't push down on the brush. You just want the tip to kind of float around on the snow. And this isn't the only color of grass we're gonna do. You put in some little tufts that you want here and there. This is still wet for me right here, so that's why I'm not painting in that. If yours is dry, you can add a little paint in that. I'm gonna change the value now by adding, instead of adding orange to my burnt umber, I put my burnt umber over here, I add my yellow. And it will almost, it almost turns green when you add the yellow to the burnt umber. So the grass we put in right now, it should have like a reddish tinge to it. And now we're gonna add this burnt umber with the yellow. I used the light yellow, the lightest yellow I have, which is medium yellow. And I'm gonna go back to where I started, the ones I started with first. And I'm doing the same thing. So I'm adding just a different little value of grass along the edge to each of the little tufts of grass that I put in here along the edge of the water. I mean, this, you can go back and forth with this, because if you look at winter grass that's, you know, dead and it's just all little stalks coming up through the snow, there's all kinds of colors in them. But this will start looking really, really cool when you mix it in with your reddish brown that you already put on there. Now you add a little bit of this, which gives it a little bit more of a yellow tone. Something that's like, it looks like it's been really struggling to stay alive during this winter snow. I knew this painting tonight was going to be a longer one. I'm sorry we got a little bit of a 20-minute late start, but we are getting close to finishing. Some of you that are in different time zones, I know it's getting late. So I've added some more little grass along the edge there. While I'm working with my brown, just using straight burnt umber. So don't have any orange or any yellow in it, just straight burnt umber. I'm gonna come in here and give myself some fence posts right here along the water's edge. So we'll start off with one that's kind of tall, and then one that's maybe a little bit shorter, and then a small little one. Okay. And then give yourself some railings. There. Just a little, I think it just adds a little bit to have this little fence here. And when that dries, we'll put a little blob of snow on top of it, on top of the posts and stuff. How's everybody doing? Are you sticking with it? Do you like it? I hope you like it. My snow here in the front has dried a little bit now, so I'd like to add just to add a little balance to it, I would like to add a little bunch sticking out here. I think it looks a little more balanced. How's your grass going, girl? Guys? Got it? What? You're doing good? We're gonna let this dry and we're gonna take off the tape on the right side. If you want to, you can take the tape off of all the sides. So just peel your masking tape off the side. Mine's not wanting to come off in a whole piece. I tape a lot of my paintings, not because I'm going to paint out in the white area, just because I really like the feeling of when you pull the tape off and it looks, so beautiful. Like it's already framed, like it's already framed. I'm going to just pull all my tape off. Somebody's doing, you see that? This pulling the tape off also gives our painting a little chance to dry before we put our finishing touches on our snow. The tape always goes on so easy. It's just always a little bit difficult to get it off. This is where you wish you didn't bite your fingernails. Wish you had a little bit of fingernail to scrape. It's so funny. Back last fall, I did a painting at home, just on my own. And I could not figure out how come the paint was not sticking to the canvas. I was so mad. I primed it like 4 times. Then I painted it with acrylic paint and still it was like I was painting on glass. Anyway, I finally made it through the painting and I painted it all and everything. And I turned the painting over and I had painted on the back of the canvas. Yeah, the back, well, this one has words on it, but the one I had, it was probably from the dollar store. It was just this really smooth paper. Dude ever tried to paint on it? It's the Dickens. It's so here's my painting with the tape taken off of it.
Can I ask you?
What?
Is this a typical canvas that we can buy in the States?
Yes.
I
Do you know
see.
where you got these canvases?
Amazon.
Oh, okay. These canvases that we had in the kits are just from Amazon.
Oh, how much is it?
You can get it. You can get canvases at Hobby Lobby, 10 for $10.99.
Mhm.
You can get 8x10 canvases for $1 a piece at the dollar store.
Mhm.
Yeah, these ones are already primed.
I have to go. Where can I find the rest of the class?
On Eventbrite, where's the rest? No, the rest of the class. Where would she has to go? Yeah.
Yeah, I put it in the chat. It's on the American Fork Library YouTube channel. It'll be there by tomorrow.
By tomorrow afternoon, it will be on the American Fork Library YouTube channel.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you from back east?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Let me just tell you what's left to do, okay, before you sign off.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna come in here now that the tape is off, and you're going to with your dark, with your burnt or your raw umber, you're gonna come in about here on your painting, and you're gonna draw 2 branches that are gonna go up into the white area.
Yep.
2 branches. Then
Mhm.
you're gonna take it with your liner and get it wet and roll it out, just like you did with the trees here. And you're gonna add little fine forked branches on it, okay?
Okay.
And
Got it.
then you'll use your medium brush like this
Mhm.
with the tip dipped in the burnt umber with the yellow, and add little bushes of leaves on that tree. And then when it's dry, add a little bit of white to the tips of it.
Okay.
And the only thing we're gonna do with the snow is we're gonna come in with a little white and put a little snowbank back here by the tree, and a little bit of white snow in the front here.
Okay.
That's all that's left. Thank you so much. Have
Thank
you
you.
joined us before?
One time before, the time I get crazy with the different time zones. So
Oh, well, we really appreciate you joining us tonight.
thank you. It was
There might
fun.
be others too that need to leave. We should mention, I'm expecting a little granddaughter next month, so I'm not going to be teaching, but one of our participants from Bonnie from Florida, who has painted with us a few times, is a certified Zentangle teacher. And
Okay.
so she has a fabulous project for us for next month. Zentangling is meditative drawing. So it's done on white paper with white stiff paper with an ultra fine Sharpie. So I'll just show you a heart I made for Valentine's Day, but it will be something similar to this for next month.
Okay.
Okay. And Bonnie will be our guest teacher from teaching us from Florida. So that should be an amazing experience.
On Eventbrite.
And by February 1st, it'll be listed on the American Fork Eventbrite view, so you can view it there. Okay. So I hope everybody is at the point now for us to come in here. I'm going to add my white snowbanks first. So come to your palette knife, dip the edge of it into your white. Mine was kind of close to my yellow, so I'll make sure and wipe that off. But here's the top of my palette knife. Here's the bottom of my palette knife. So I have white on it. So I'm going to come back here by my cabin, and I'm just going to lay down little snowbank kind of back where my cabin is. So you can still see a little bit of my little path there, but it's not so stark. And I'm going to come in here and add, just to break up my pink a little bit, I'm going to come in. Okay, here's the top of my palette knife. Here's the bottom of my palette knife. I'm going to come in here and just go through here, just adding a little bit of the highlighted snow in where my pink is. And probably, there would be snow kind of built up where your little clumps of grass are. There would be a little snow would be backed up kind of along the edge of it. But you've taken your tape off, so make sure you don't come out into the area where where that's at. And my little fence, while I'm working with white, my little fence is dry now, so I can dip my liner brush in there and add a little clump of snow hanging here on my little railings and on my posts. See how I added a little snow to the posts? I think while I have still a little bit of blue and white left, I'm going to put a little snow over here on this foliage. Hold it away from you and see what you think. Looks amazing. That's what we think.
Always looks better the next day.
It looks so amazing. I'm just using my liner brush here to be a little more definite with some of my snow. Okay. So this is our winter calm painting. Can we stop here? Of course, that could be amazing. Just like that. If those of you, I know we're about out of time here, but those of you that want to continue, I would take my burnt umber just straight by itself with my liner brush and a little water and come over here on the right side and give myself a tree trunk. And for this painting, we do 2. So I'm just gonna draw it up from the bottom here. Kind of run out of paint as I go up because my paint is kind of thick. So I have two trunks here to my trees. And now I just want it just using the same paint, the burnt umber. I'm going to come back with just the tip of my brush here and draw some little forked branches coming out here. See how I'm just adding a little bit of branch work on my tree? I have just kind of a little skeleton that I can pounce some little leaves on. While my branches are drying a little bit, I'm going to come back with my colors that I had mixed for my grasses and put some little bits of grass here along the edge of my trees. And I'm going to bring it out into my white area. Maybe I want to put some of that yellowish brown And last, I want to put a little bit of my snow kind of in here. It's kind of clumped along here. I have a little mound of snowed in weeds along the bottom of my tree. Before I add the leaves, which will be like the last thing we'll do here on our painting, I'm going to come back with my liner brush. Where am I at? My liner brush and my white, just straight white. And I'm going to pounce in some snow on the trunk of my trees. And especially in the V where a branch starts, you know, that would have the snow would build up there. And actually, once you get into these background trees, that built up snow is kind of the only thing that shows you that there's a branch there. See how I put the snow on this little branch? Because it's mixing in with my background so much. So again, I'm just taking white, pouncing it in here a little bit on my trunk, especially at the V's where the branch is attached to the main trunk. That's what would hold snow. And for our leaves, we want to get close to this color for our leaves. So I have my burnt umber, maybe a little bit of yellow. I might even put a little white in there just to get a little lighter. So once you have your burnt umber, a little yellow, and a little bit of white, you end up with a brownish color like this. And I have it on my medium brush, and I'm going to wipe it off on my paper towel so it's not super loaded. And I'm going to go back to my painting, and I'm just going to give myself some leaves on the trees. Let me hold it up so you can see it better. So I'm just pouncing my brush on here. Give myself a little leaf canopy here. I dab it off on a paper towel before I put it on my canvas. Yeah, not too many leaves. It's a winter tree. And can you see how that looks? And I don't know about you, but I've run out of my ultramarine blue and white, but that's what I would want. So I would go back here, clean my brush off, and pull in my last little bit of blue with some white. Where you at? Branches. Branches, that's fine. Yeah. So I had to mix up a little more white with ultramarine blue because mine was all dried out. So I put this on my brush, dry my brush off a little bit on paper towel. And now I'm going to come back and I'm just going to add a little snow onto the top of my leaves. I don't even have to get more paint on my brush because it's such a small thing. Can everybody see that good? I like the idea of the tree going off the page. Kind of makes you feel like the scene just keeps going on and on. If the one last thing that I would like to do with my painting here, it's totally up to you how you want to do this, but just to balance it out, I'm going to have some of my little weeds here on this side also go off the edge of the paper. Just to balance out the tree over here. And if you were to frame this, if you were to have a frame on this, you know, you wouldn't want this side to be all white without having a little, what do you call it? Little, not detour, little thing hanging off the edge. So while you're painting on your tree and stuff, I'm going to just keep talking here. But something about umber paint, raw umber, burnt umber paint that we used tonight. It is considered, what's my word? It's considered hydroscopic. The umber paint is, which means that even though it's dry on your canvas, it may continue to absorb moisture. So it is really important if you're painting with umber paint that when your painting is all dry that you seal it. If you don't, there is a chance that it could mold. It's made from the earth. Well, unless you get synthetic stuff, but it will keep absorbing moisture. And if it does, we don't really live in a humid climate, but if it does, there's a rare chance that it would mold. So for those of you that live in American Fork, you know our and maybe you haven't done this with us before, but you can bring your paintings into the library next week and Wendy will seal them all for you. We also like you to leave them so we can put them on display. But I was going to show you what we use for sealer here. It's a crayon. You can get it in any hobby store or Walmart, or it's crayon. It's matte finish, so it doesn't have a shine to it. You can't even tell it's on there. It's not going to change the color of anything or be seen at all. It also has UV resistant. So the one we use is called Crayon Matte UV Resistant Clear Acrylic Coating. So it protects against UV lights, helps things to not yellow, it says. It is a moisture resistant coating, and that's what you want to use over a painting that you've used umber paint on.
By the way, if anyone here, who brought their people. Right.
Hey, Lori.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, it's really.
Don't forget to sign your painting. Did somebody have a question? They unmuted themselves? I heard somebody say Lori. So I know it's getting kind of late.
Bottom of the
So
tree,
tomorrow
top of the tree, yeah.
morning, when you get up and you look at this, you are going to say, wow, I can't believe I did that. Which is what I said the next morning after I painted it. You guys have any questions? I mean, I don't know how many people are left on, but you can unmute your, I'm done. So, oh, okay, 38 people hanging on to the bitter end.
What did you do for
you.
the leaves on the tree again?
The leaf,
Yeah.
use your medium brush. Mix your burnt umber. I mixed burnt umber with my deep yellow and then added a touch of white to it, which lightens it up quite a bit.
And then what's at the bottom? Just
The
is it
grass,
just grass with some snow?
the grass at the bottom,
Yeah.
it's a mixture between burnt umber and yellow, which actually turns out looking a slight bit green, or burnt umber and a touch of orange, which gives it a little reddish color. If I hold it
Good.
up, I don't know if you
Thank
can
you.
see. And I just put some around the bottom of the tree. And then when it was dry, I just added some ultramarine white and ultramarine blue and white to give it little clumps of snow that are built up on it. So I could even go back in here because now it's looking kind of dark on my leaves and add a little bit more snow kind of. Anybody else want to say something? What did you guys think of the class?
We think you did a great job, Lori. We're coming.
What?
We think you did a great job, and we in California are going to come every month.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lori.
Oh, you guys are so welcome. Donna, I remember we used to go to your house and do toll painting crafts.
I know.
Back in the olden days.
Yeah,
We got it.
yeah.
Okay, so now what, how do I get that snow on the leaves? I just kind of dab it with this.
Well, thanks you guys for joining tonight. Is there anything else I can do to help you to finish?
Now, this was a great design. Thank you so much for the class.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. I just love the way, you know, we started out by painting the dark yellow, the lighter yellow, and the white. And then we went the opposite way here with the dark yellow, the lighter yellow, and the white. And from that, and with the use of the palette knife, we have this whole illusion of the sky reflecting in the lake with the snow iced on top of it. I just love how that turns out. And I love the pink in the front, the rose in the snow with the blue shadows in the snow. So just a reminder, if you live here in American Fork and you picked up an art kit from the library, please remember to wash your brushes good. And you just turn your kit in like you were returning a book. So it should have, you don't need to return the paints, but what did they have? They had just your brushes, your brushes and the palette. Did they have a easel? And if you had an easel, then return that.
Oh.
So starting this month, easels are checking out separately from paint kits. So if you want an easel next month, when you come to pick up your paint kit, you can just request one and they'll check one out for you with your kit. It's just a separate checkout now.
Thank you guys all so very much. Before we end, I would love it if you would hold your painting up to the computer so that I can take a little snapshot with my camera.
Do you see mine, Lori?
Oh, Teresa,
Hi.
aren't you so proud? Oh, they look amazing, guys. Oh, I just love them.
So fun. Oh my goodness, you guys have done an amazing job.
We have technology. Donna, where's your picture?
I'm actually still missing out.
Oh, Kelly, just amazing, guys. So wonderful. I have to tell you, my daughter in Denver had a big company conference on Monday and Tuesday this week. And she thought it would be great if we had a little art experience at the same time, like to break up all the speakers and the seminars. And on Monday, I did a Zoom Zentangling class for 482 people across the United States. It was amazing. Anyway, this is wonderful to see all you guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for coming, everybody.
Bye. Thank y'all.
Thank you. You guys have a great rest of your week. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
You're amazing. Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming. You guys have a good night. Oh, the lucky family.
Oh, yes. Second granddaughter. Sixth grandson, second great granddaughter, second she's gonna be a grand.
There's a little tree there. I have a little tree in the corner
This
like
one,
that.
I don't think it's a tree.
Thank you.
I like that. I
A
want a little
little-
tree. How do I get a little tree in the
Hey,
middle?
thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
It was very fun.
Okay.
Guys have a good night.
Thank you.
Especially some. All those